what I find interesting is, so we've had a lot of people that were relatively, distracted with life and getting more reclusive and trying to find ways just to, compensate for how uncomfortable, how disconnected, and how stressed, anxious, all of the things. And so they now have been given this space. But what's interesting is, there are likely a lot of people not working. A lot of people's lifestyles have been disrupted incredibly. But really comes down to is people have been stripped of their identities, and they've also been their usual ways of processing and dealing with the stress and the anxiety and the difficulty and the energy of life. They've all been stripped away as well. So they can't work out, we can't go to yoga, we can't go to places where we'd usually go to where groups are gathering. So
the last one's true, the first two are not.
As far as working out and stuff? Well, people can still do those, no doubt, remotely,
there's a lot of,
and by themselves. But
there's a lot of compensation that's been happening with online classes being made available.
Of course. But for a lot of people, the usual ways they help process that energy, the ones that they were comfortable with, and people are very patterned, routine people, the usual comforts have all been completely pulled away instantly from everyone. And so a lot of people are now finding themselves in a space where all this energy that's being built up with financial struggles and not being able to see their loved ones as much as they want to, traveling the way they travel, and then on top of that, not having a good way to process that, is forcing people back into themselves. And that's where there's an opportunity, or it's potentially a punishing thing that's happening to people. So what do you feel, or what is your perspective on this current situation of people who've been otherwise just going, praying for that space to just be with themselves, now having a full, clean slate reflection back into themselves? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but what's the question?
What is going to be the biggest struggle?
So we're headed towards something when I'm like, never mind your question.
What is going to be one of the biggest struggles people are going to have when they start to do that type of work?
They're not. The biggest struggle is they're not doing it. They're succumbing to grieving the life as they knew it. And that's part of the thing people don't want to hear. It doesn't work. As much as we had this prayer, consistent prayer, species-wide, of what we wanted, and then natural circumstances attempted to address it, it doesn't work because people still won't do it. You've taken away all their excuses. You've disempowered the reasons they're not doing it, and yet they're still not doing it. Mostly, people don't have the skill sets to actually do it. They're not going to unless they're handheld through it, which is why it's where teachers really need to step up and start providing content like what you're trying to do. And the thing is that for this to actually work, to answer what we're talking about, those two prayers that this circumstance sets us up perfectly to address, for it to actually work and rewrite the system, the period of time that we would have to be in this lockdown is astronomical. And there is no recovery from it for society. And so we won't allow the space and time for it to actually do what it's supposed to do before we just reboot the system, a compromised system. We reboot it for some semblance of normalcy and as a semblance of recovery. And so we don't actually do it long enough.
But if we do that, then there's going to be another event that takes place that puts us right back into an uncomfortable space.
Yep.